Hello. Right, welcome back. It's been a week or two, hasn't it? So today we are having a look at what caliber of airgun is best to choose. So we get asked daily, what caliber of airgun should I buy? Should I buy a 177 or should I buy a 22? And there are arguments for both, which I'm sure you will all put in the comments down below. But I have devised some, I would call them highly scientific tests to do today. We are using exactly the same gun. We are using, obviously we can't use exactly the same pellet because they're different diameters, but we're using a JSB Exact against a JSB Exact. Let's get to it. So for looking at the ballistics, I'm not really sure what I'm expecting to see. Obviously I use 177, so I'm a bit biased towards it. I do a lot of target shooting, and you've seen on the channel I've done some long range stuff. I don't think you can really beat the 177 for the relatively, for air guns, flat trajectory. However, a lot of people are sticking to 2.2. Now I can completely see the upside of that if they're vermin controlling with it, especially if you're shooting close in barns and you don't want pass through, then 2.2 I can definitely see an upside for. Although it is going slower, although it's nearly double the mass in some pellets, it is going a lot slower. So I'm not really sure. I'm stuck on 177, but I can absolutely see the upside of a big lump of lead, not going overly fast, but hitting hard. I would anticipate to see that the 2.2 doesn't have the penetration that the 177 will, but I've got a funny feeling that the 177 will penetrate far deeper than the 2.2. It just won't have the kinetic energy behind it to actually rock stuff. And if you were to, for example, say shooting rats up close or pigeons out of trees, then I can see that 2.2 would have the kinetic energy to actually impact and knock out. Target shooting, I think the 2.2 would be excellent fun because you have to be so on with your ranging to make sure of your holdover. However, is it something I'd use in competition? Probably not. I would like the fact that 177, and I'm going to say it, and I know you're going to go mad in the comments, 177 in my opinion is easier to shoot with, more accurately and at longer distances. But who knows? So we're going to do the phone book test, and then we're going to have a little look, and I've got a Devon version of what the Americans do. Let's go and have a look. So the first test is going to be what we would call the yellow pages test. Obviously they are no more, and if they are, they're like wafer thin. So I have a very old catalogue, relative thickness about thick as my thumb, which none of you know me, so you don't know how thick my thumb is, but it's about as thick as my thumb. We're going to fire one shot at each and see how many pages they will go through. That'll give us a good idea of penetration test, but also the friction that is produced from the pellet entering what you're shooting at. Let's go and do that. The pellets that we're going to be using today is going to be JSB Exact Diablo, and they're in the 844 grains in 177. And we're also using the Exact Jumbo Diablo, which are in 15.89 grains. So we are going to be using for the test today the same pellets, admittedly different sizes, but JSB Exact, JSB Exact. We're going to be using the same guns, Gamo Fox, as standard, so they're absolutely identical, shooting absolutely fine. This should be quite an interesting test. So the first test that we're going to do is the phone book test. Because I'm going to film it in slow-mo, you're not going to bother seeing me shoot because it's me just basically sat down looking through a scope, so it's really boring watching. So you're going to put full screen the phone book down, then we're going to go one shot each, and then we'll tear it open and see how many pages each pellet has gone through. As I say, we're shooting domed-headed JSB Exact in 2.2, exactly the same in 177, out of the same guns. Let's see how we go. So I haven't really thought this the whole way through, if I'm brutally honest with you, because the book that I shot is actually from a supplier. It is a few years old, but they're not going to be happy that I'm using their lovely glossy catalogues to shoot with air guns. But that's not the point. I did open the book up as I picked it up. Unfortunately, the pellets fell out. But the 2.2 pellet, see if I can hold my thumb, actually hit page 55. I don't know if you'll be able, let me see if I can see it on the camera. There's like a indent on the page there. So 55 pages for the 2.2. And the 177, let's have a look. There you go, you can see it in the light there, is page 75. So actually quite a bit of difference in the pellet there. The other thing that's quite interesting is, I'll put a picture of it up. We've actually managed to retrieve the 2 pellets. The 2.2 is actually held together fairly well. So you can still make out the rear of the pellet, and you can also make out roughly the front of the pellet. But the 177 is absolutely minced. So it looks like it's completely demolished itself. I don't imagine this will work, but there you go, probably focusing on my face. The 177 is absolutely mullered, but pictures incoming. Anyway, that was one penetration test just to see how they go. Now let's go and do what could be the messy one, but it's all right. I'm not cleaning the range tomorrow. Now for the good bit. So the budget can't stretch to ballistics gel. So what we've got is very, very bouncy Hartley's jelly. I think it's going to whiz through, but it'd be quite interesting. I'm going to try and shoot it in slow motion, so at least we can try and see what the wound channel is doing. And we'll just see how the pellets pass through. This is the first time I've ever attempted to shoot jelly. I don't know whether it's going to spray over the range. I don't know whether it will hold together or whether the first shot, that is it. So this could be quite a short video. Either way, you're not probably going to be watching me shooting. You just want to see the jelly. So let's go and do it. Right then, we're going to go 2.2 first. Let's see what happens. In theory, this should rock the jelly. Absolutely mental. Oh, quite a lot of wobble on that one. Like, a lot of wobble. Right, I'm just going to go down, reset the camera, and we'll get back on the 177. Well, that 2.2 was properly wobbly. When I went down to reset the camera, I'll put some pictures up after this and we'll have a little chat about it, but that is actually quite impressive. Obviously using the, what weight were we using? 15.89 grain pellets, and this is all at 20 meters. So we are going metric for this one. I realized I should really have aimed off to one side because I've only got one brick of jelly. The 177 might look a little bit peculiar. I'm not sure how the filming will work out, but 8.44 grains in a 177. Let's have a look. Really odd hollow thud to that. Right, let's go down and have a look. So as you can see, guys, it is roughly 6 inches of Hartley's jelly that we have used, and quite impressively, so this is 177 on the right and 2.2 on the left. Now what's interesting is, see if I can get it, the entry, it's quite warm in the shop because we've had the heating on, so the jelly is starting to give up the ghost, but the entry for the 2.2 is far, far larger than the 177. However, the surprise for me is that coming along, the wound channel and the cavitation actually is slightly wider. A quick measure. It's about, what's that, 1.5 mil against 1 mil. So it's only half a mil, but the cavitation is phenomenal. Interesting. So we've shot the orange jelly, which very interesting actually. The 177 actually appeared to make a bigger cavity and also penetrate with a slightly longer channel. I thought that was that because, as you saw, and I've put pictures up as well, the jelly split. There isn't really enough room to shoot anymore, and I thought that was it. But Mrs. Mark, who obviously knew I would be disappointed with one block, I went to my lunchbox to get ready to go home, has made me a second tub of jelly. So I thought we'd do exactly the same test just to see if it comes out the same way. Now this will all hinge on me getting this jelly out of the container without splitting it. It did take me longer to get out of the container on the last one than it did to actually shoot it. So wish me luck. If you see the next part of this video, I've done really well. If you don't see the next part of this video and you just get to my conclusion, then I've had a little cry because I spilt all my jelly and I can't even eat it because I've dropped it in the range. But right, let's go and wiggle wangle this out. Right, so this jelly particularly feels, I'll move that one, a lot thicker than the last one made. So we're going to go same again. We're going to put one shot on the left hand side for the 2-2 and one shot on the right hand side for the 2-2. I'm going to attempt to do it, so we might get a second go. Oh, it just wobbles so much through the scope. It's an odd feeling shooting jelly, to be fair. I'd recommend it to anyone. Right then, so 177, I have turned the jelly round, so what you can see on the camera, or what you'll see on the camera, is in fact the fresh side, which means I need to shoot on the left again. Yes. I'm going to give it a second because it looks like I caught the top on that. So just because there's some jelly left, I have actually found some Bisley practice in 2-2. So we're going to wallop that and just see what a flat pellet does compared to a domed pellet. That looked fairly catastrophic. You can see lumps of jelly flying off the back of it. Right, let's go and have a look. So, what have we learned? Well, number one, Hartley's jelly is not the best ballistics gel. But other than that, I think the interesting fact is that they were both doing phenomenal jobs at both penetration and actually creating wound channels. So I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. It's whichever caliber you would like to shoot with, as long as it works for you, crack on with that. There's no upside or downside. Although it's quite interesting listening to the conversations go on between 177 and 2.2 with the pros and cons. The thing that surprised me most is that the 177 creates a rather large channel once it's traveling through said jelly. I wasn't anticipating that. I was thinking it'd be a very slim line running through, but there we go. Hopefully you guys have learned something. I tried to take as many photos as I could in some good lighting, but it's really hard to see through flavored jelly, especially when you make it hard enough that you think it might survive being shot with an air gun. But if you want to see more of this sort of stuff, please do like, subscribe, put a comment down below, all that sort of stuff. Yeah, see you next time round.